Hello scribes, welcome back to my channel. I'm Pika and I want to talk to you guys today a little bit about how I decided that the UCLA program was the right screenwriting program for me. So stick around because I'm going to go through the top 10 reasons why the UCLA Extension program for screenwriting still lives in my mind rent-free. If you're not new to my channel, you've already seen that I have taken one UCLA Extension program course that was for TV writing. And you've probably already seen that it is up on my channel still. It was probably one of the first UCLA videos that I did, and I got to give you a little bit of an insight of how I felt about that course and how it worked on the platform. And I also did a few different online quick learn guides from Screencraft as well. I do talk about that in my breakdown of how much I've spent on screenwriting in total, and you can see that also on my channel if you'd like. But today I actually just want to go through a little bit more of the reasoning behind why I initially chose the UCLA Screenwriting Extension program. The UCLA Extension program is a smaller annex of the UCLA University, and what that means is that what they actually do for students is create smaller programs that are more certificate driven and a little bit more, I'd say, not quite on the technical side, but a little bit quicker to enter into your career. Now, one of the biggest things that actually struck me with UCLA Extension program, the screenwriting certificate, was the alumni. Now, I used to listen to a lot of podcasts trying to figure out what was my next step after school, how did I get to California, what was I going to do from there, and how was I going to grow my knowledge of screenwriting. I felt like I needed a lot of technical instruction, I needed a lot to learn about story and storytelling as a whole, not so much the format, and I really did need to learn a little bit more about television if I wanted to be a staff writer. So the first thing I did was research, and when I did my research and I listened to many success stories from screenwriters that were out in California just doing their thing, I learned that the one common denominator was that they all went to the UCLA Extension program before they sort of blew up into their career. Now, the number one podcast where I heard these truly amazing stories from writers was from Making It with Riki Lindholm. Now, she's an actress that just so happened to have been out here and met so many great people who would love to sit down and chat with her a little bit about how they made it into the industry. It's still on Apple Podcasts and you can still listen to those episodes, although they are from about 2011 or 2012 or so. I didn't quite listen to it that long ago, but I did kind of just happen upon it a few years ago. Now, the second biggest thing for me was actually the ease of applying. This may sound kind of crazy, but every time I listened to the podcast, I would jump back onto the actual website for UCLA, and I was super stunned that the only thing you had to do was apply and pay a fee for the certificate program of your choice. Now, the fee changed depending on which program you took. So for currently the screenwriting program for feature writing, it's $200 for your application fee, and then you would just go ahead and fill out an application and pretty much be accepted. You don't have to go through the UCLA University enrollment. You only had to enroll through the UCLA Extension program, which did many standalone classes, which is why it was so easy to go ahead and go to this smaller annex for certificate programs and apply with just paying a fee and having your student information placed on file. Now, currently, since I did mention the first screenwriting program, I did want to go ahead and mention that it's about $300 for you to apply to the Screenwriting and TV Comprehensive certificate program, and that is for both TV writing and feature writing. The first certificate only has classes and electives that you would take for specifically feature writing. The third thing I was super excited about was that they gave you the luxury of taking this course for completion of the certificate program. They gave you 5 years. which was lovely for me because if you're going to take a course like this at a slower pace, it's going to take you a little bit of time to gather up the money, because they don't actually let you go ahead and apply for student loans unless you're applying privately for student loans. You can only go ahead and pay either out of pocket, have a private loan, or you would go through a scholarship, which they do have a few scholarships, so I definitely recommend checking into them. There's about 2 specific ones that I have in the past applied for that are specifically for women going back into writing, or just going back into writing in general. I'm not quite sure both of them are specific to women, so don't quote me on that. Regardless, 5 years to complete a simple certificate program for screenwriting was pretty luxurious because there's not that many classes to take. You can really double up on a few different classes in taking some production courses with your writing courses or electives with your writing courses so that you can go ahead and run through them a little bit quicker. But that was something that I really wanted to take into consideration since I was paying out of pocket and still am today. Now, tuition isn't all at once, it's per class. So each class costs about $6.99 or so, and you'd have to pay that upon enrollment. So every time you enroll in a course, they will have a checkout where you will go ahead and pay right away. Which brings me to my next point of 4, budget friendly. Now for me, because I was paying this out of pocket, it was considerably budget friendly for me, especially because if you went into a different school, you'd have to pay a little bit more higher prices. The fact that this particular location was actually okay with out-of-state individuals and you would pay the same amount was actually another part that really got me excited for taking the UCLA Extension courses. With this program, the courses are pretty much a standard $6.99 or so, and they only change if you choose a specific course that is designed more of a workshop. And that's just generally because when I first started looking into it, I was based in Florida. I'm now based in California, so it's a little bit easier for me to go on campus if I'd like instead of just being remote. And now they've got hybrid classes because of what happened the last few years, so I've been enjoying that even more. It's now Zoom friendly, whereas before, if you were doing an online course, it was a little bit more kind of a study on your own and lecture based. So you would read the lectures, you would submit your assignments, and then you would get graded, or you could write into the teacher, but nothing face-to-face and nothing on Zoom. I'm not quite sure 100% if it was always like that, where they did offer a hybrid remote class like they do now, but it's a lot more prevalent in the courses that I've seen to get a remote class. And that's something that I highly enjoy now because I don't live that close to campus. So me driving out to campus after work would be a little bit tough because of traffic. So something to actually look into would be doing a remote hybrid course where you have your actual assignments online, you submit them online, and you get your lectures also delivered online, but you can also sit in on the classes while they're happening live on Zoom. Of course, now you do have 3 options because they are bringing back the on-campus live classes and they are offering remote and online. Which brings me to number 5. My reason for going was the instructors. Now the instructors, if you know a little bit about the UCLA Extension program, they do have their bios up on there for you to read about them before you take their class, which I find really exciting to read a little bit about what they've done in the industry, and that's exactly why I did choose to go to the UCLA Extension program. The instructors have industry experience, and this industry experience to me comes in big handy when you're teaching a course that's supposed to be focused on trends that are current. And while most of these instructors are still working in the field, some of them may not be anymore, but they're still pretty much active in the community, which is great. You can find teachers who were notable TV writers, people who have done feature films that you may have heard of, or at least ones that are in the genre that they're teaching. So you know that they've got the experience and that they have been placed in the industry at some point and were able to interact with people in the business, can give you that firsthand insight. 6. This school was highly recommended by all of the writers that I've ever come into contact with. I mean, okay, maybe not every single writer that I've come into contact with, but at least most of the ones that I've looked up online who are doing work that I want to do, and most of the writers who are currently getting a little bit of notice in the industry at the moment, they've taken at least one course from there, at least one screenwriting course that has shaped their writing. And because of their recommendations for other writers to go into the school, it made me realize that if there's going to be more than one person who's recommending it, I mean, kind of like a restaurant, if someone is recommending a restaurant to you, or multiple people are telling you to go to Disneyland, you're gonna go to Disneyland. You're gonna go to that restaurant because multiple people have told you so, that it is going to be a great experience and that you should try a specific class, a specific dish, or a specific ride. And you know that you're going to, because what's better than word of mouth? No one's going to tell you to go someplace that they wouldn't recommend to their own family and friends, and no one's going to tell you to go there unless you've now just become their enemy. And if you're making enemies that quick right when you meet someone, I'm very concerned. But seriously, there's even some classes I wouldn't even recommend to my worst enemies. 7. Location to the industry. Now, I know I said when I first looked into this I wasn't in California yet. That's because I hadn't yet moved. I have since moved, and that was always the goal, for me to go ahead and move from Florida to California into my industry. One of the best reasons for me to go ahead and really do a lot of my research for going on campus when I arrived here was because of the location to the industry. It's located in the middle of LA and so close to all of these iconic spots that when you drive into the location of the campus for UCLA Extension program, you're pretty much in awe. You're just so taken aback that you can be in the middle of all that. And that inspires so much motivation, you can't even believe it. There's nothing like being on campus with others who are doing the same thing that you're doing. They're preparing for the rest of their life to go into this very tough career. It's like how they say when you're surrounding yourself with people that you want to be like, you eventually gain that same confidence that they have, and you gain that knowledge, and you rise yourself to the top. It's no different being in the location that you really want to be at and learning the things that you're supposed to know for the industry so that you can actually get a lot of insight and a lot of that experience already being there and working your way as far up to the top as you can in a certain amount of time. Number 8, I'm going to go through quickly because I've kind of said it quite a lot of times, but the remote options and the online options were fantastic. So at this point, you've got the hybrid Zoom courses, which again, I don't know if they previously did that when I was looking into it a few years ago, but the only one that I could find at that time for the class that I wanted was specifically an online learning course. And it was, again, read the lecture, do the assignment, submit it, and then you've got office hours. So pretty much that was the style that I took back a few years ago, and it has changed significantly now, and I'm very happy about that. So I again say that if you like having that option to be online with your fellow students instead of being on campus because maybe you can't be on campus and you live somewhere else, just know that there are people from around the world who are taking this course with you. As someone who's just recently taken the remote course, I am very happy with my experience. I got to be on Zoom with all of my class. I got to do really cool group presentations with my classmates who were in different time zones, different countries, and different states, and I had a lot of fun being able to connect with all of them. 9, it suited my love for TV writing and feature writing. So as I mentioned earlier, there's a certificate program that's specifically for TV writing and feature film writing. It's the Screenwriting and TV Comprehensive Certificate. I really wanted to take the courses that I needed to learn a little bit more about my craft, learn a lot more about development, and I seem to be heading a little bit more into the corporate film industry with my dreams of now learning more about the development side of things. And it was one that actually caught my interest because it does offer an internship. That's right, an internship. So my aims for using the internship is because I previously wasted some of that internship electives that I had in my original filmmaking degree, and I'm sort of sore about that. Now I'm realizing that if I had had the industry experience at a studio, I could have transferred over to California in some capacity, or at least said that I used to work for a studio like NBC, which we had a lot of studios set up for in Miami. I do know that by wasting that opportunity, I didn't quite get the experience or the knowledge from the inside of the studios that I hope to have. 10, I was super excited about its notable name. Now, its notable name was something that obviously if I said it, UCLA, you'd know it right away because, well, hello, UCLA is a huge university in California. So, of course, do I feel special when I say I am taking a UCLA Extension program course? Yes, I am. And I feel really proud that I've been able to actually look into such a program and be a part of it. I've also loved the fact that their alumni get benefits, and it's something that I feel that the school does really well, incorporating all the things that you would need to have a successful career. And I think that that's something to why most of the writers who leave there really do end up in the field. So while yes, I'm looking at the name, I know that the name is not a replacement for the education, it's that the education meets the name's standards. And that's why it's something that people talk about often. People mention UCLA because it's a great school because of the way that it's set up its programs. And that's something that makes me really happy to know that it does meet its own gold standard, it does live up to its name, and that notable name is going to help me get the career that I've always dreamed of. Now, I am not obviously doing this, I'm not sponsored by UCLA, although, hey UCLA, hit me up if you'd like me to. So I just think that it's one of those clever things that they have done, making it so affordable for people to go ahead and get that experience and that knowledge and have access to it. And that's something that I loved about the program, something that a lot of the other schools didn't quite offer either. So thank you, UCLA, if you do come across this, which quite a long shot, but hi. Great stuff that you're doing out there. And for you at home watching this, I hope that you do your own research into it to see if it's a good fit for you. These were just some of the reasons why it fit me. And of course, I've got maybe one more quick tip about that. And of course, I want to bring it back around to the 11th thing that I loved about it, the scholarships. They do have 2 scholarships that were for writing, and I loved the fact that they were something that was a part of the UCLA Extension program school. You could go ahead and apply for it. You can fill out an application, do an essay, and they were for returning students to writing fields. So I really loved this offer of a scholarship because, as I said before, you had to either have out-of-pocket, some private loans, or you could have a scholarship. And the fact that they offered 2 different types of scholarships that I was able to apply for was fantastic. It made me even more excited to go specifically to this school. Now, while you can't get student loans per se, which to be honest I wouldn't want more of, there was this opportunity to continue your education and be rewarded for it. So that is something that I really loved about the school, and I was endeared to it from that. So of course, all of the other things that I mentioned were tons of things that I thought about, tons of things that I was always constantly comparing against other schools, and this one just did it for me. All of these marks were things that I was looking for, and I could easily say that I would recommend this to anybody who asked. So I hope that you enjoyed this little walkthrough of my pretty much thinking of how I decided the UCLA Extension program was going to be the program for me. Now get to writing. If you followed my journey. Finally, 10, I was